It is episode 93. Today we discussed collaboration updates from Ignite and some recent updates out to apps like Teams and Whiteboard. I am Michael Askins, architect and technologist, and this is the Technology Architecture Solution Engineering Show. In the virtual studio with me, we have
Dev.
I remembered this time. Last episode, I missed it. I was off on the timing to get your screen on though at that same time though. So yeah, here we are. We're both back and better than ever. Getting another recording laid down for you all. We wanted to touch on a couple things. Number one, if this makes it to video, you see who our primary sponsor is scrolling across the bottom. We are sponsored by Aspirant. Aspirant is a management and technology company that is focused on providing integrated expertise, making sure that your needs from a business perspective and a technology perspective are covered. We've had several shows on the ITP show that has some leaders of the Aspirant team. I think I mentioned this last time. We've had some conversations with, so we'll try to remember to link some of them below. So if you haven't caught those episodes, please do. We don't have such the release cadence over there as we do here. So we're here ready, back and better than ever, ready to go. So I wanted to bring up a couple topics. First one out of the gate is that the updates for Whiteboard came out, and I'm super happy. Those of you who are with Aspirant, who are our listeners as well, will know that we use a bunch of different tools there. One of them is Miro, and I was a big Mural fan. And just because Whiteboard just didn't quite get it, we weren't able to do the sticky note thing as well. We didn't have the ability to drop shapes and icons and drop objects inside of Whiteboard. We do now. So that integrated app inside of Teams or standalone on your mobile device or on your tablet. I won't say it's parity with those other services, but it is definitely there. And the security model is integrated with Active Directory, which in my mind, from a security mindset, is wonderful. That to me is one of the biggest deals. I know we can do SSO with some of those services, and I know you can control and marshal those. And I'm not casting aspersions, besmirching them. They are great solutions. They are really well defined. They are point solutions. I just think it's pretty cool that we're able to now do some of these things inside of the Whiteboard ecosystem. They embed really well. If you want to have a team meeting, they embed really well on a tab. They become persistent and they're able to be shared. So when you're in a team meeting, you can refer to what was covered. So I thought that was super awesome. You mentioned on the last show something, Dev, that we said that, hey, let's not talk about that too much here because we wanted to talk about it, on another show. That was what, earlier in the week, I think, maybe. I don't know. Our lives have been a whirlwind trying to close out the year, right? And that product, I believe, was Microsoft Loop. And you wanted to talk to maybe... I know you had some challenges with Loop when it first got announced during Ignite. So we've heard about Fluid Framework for a while. And I'm going to ask you to talk to our business users who maybe are not in the Microsoft ecosystem that follow us to hear what the trends are in the world from a technology perspective. Fluid Framework and Loop. Give me a 50,000 foot passover for the general audience what Microsoft Loop, which is built on Fluid Framework, is.
Yeah, so Microsoft Loop is as well as Microsoft likes to call it, at least from what they have when they announced it at Ignite, is a flexible canvas for people to work in, which is it almost reminds me, I feel like almost a little bit of a combination between Microsoft Whiteboard and Teams, almost, which is it's the best way I can describe it for people who have used the rest of the Microsoft stack.
Slow your roll. Wait, so there is Whiteboard and Teams. Why Loop?
Why Loop is a good question, and that's a question I asked a lot for various different reasons. And I think more so, I think some of the gripes I have around it potentially is not necessarily the product itself, but the fact that they're marketing it as a separate product. Because I feel like it's something that could have been which it will be incorporated into Teams in some capacity.
it's first going to be deployed
Yeah.
to teams.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
worth
with
noting,
loop
right?
components and the Fluid framework is great. You know, it's a brand new way of working different things as far as live components and editing things live, and being able to drop those different components into email, Teams chats, the whole nine, Word documents. You know, with everything.
Yep.
But just looking at Loop and what it does and how it's structured and organized is, it's kind of like Teams in the sense that you can like have the it's not just it's not channels on the side, but you know, the different files and stuff like that. I'm assuming that these different, we'll say Loop workspaces, I don't know what they're actually called.
They're called Loop workspaces.
Oh, they are. Oh, I just you've been around Microsoft long enough, you know what they're going to call something. Yeah, I'm assuming they'll be tied to Office 365 groups in some capacity. I'm sure, you know, there'll be another group resource for those different things. But I think it's something they could have probably more tightly incorporated into Teams, like made it a new feature of the Teams product necessarily. At least that's the way I would have approached it, because I think a lot of some challenges that people have with Teams is how structured it is with different things. Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting because, you know, it's basically the Loop framework is there, or the Loop workspace. You can just, you know, drag and drop different things onto the board and everything. Which why I likens it to like a mural board, like you mentioned before, or something like that. But also you have the files underneath the tree and the workspace, and for, you know, pinning different things there. And
so
all that type of stuff.
Let's break it
It's
down.
a lot to digest. Yeah,
it is a lot. So let's break it down into 3 digestible slices, right? So as you mentioned, there are Loop components. That's the first thing that's going to be out of the gate, right? And I'm going to use Microsoft Words. In fact, I'm going to actually try to see if I can find their words. Oh yeah, here's their words, right? You ready? They are atomic units of productivity that allow you to collaborate in the flow of work on a Loop page or in a chat or in an email or a document. So full stop. That is number one, probably going to be one of the most key things about Loop in my mind at this moment, right? So if you're in Teams, or if you're in an email, or if you're whatever platform in the ecosystem you're on, and you need to pull a particular component in, be it voting tables, or be it objects, or being able to add components that you have already published as a component, you're able to integrate those into your standard workflow. So you're not going to Teams and saying, oh, Teams, here is this thing, and you need to go to Teams. You're now able to incorporate those into Teams, into email, into chat, wherever you're working. So that's the big differentiator between collaborating on only Teams as the pure interface. The components allow you to drag your work environment into what piece of that ecosystem you're working on. So to me, that's win-win, right? The next bit is in the three stages is the pages. So the pages are, and you'll hear this in the branding, I think I've heard this during Ignite Week like 50 times, flexible canvases. And that is truly the case, right? So if you're inside a Loop page, think of Loop pages. In my mind, when I see the demonstrations of it, I think of them as OneNote. You're able to write sections or put graphics, embed objects or components inside of OneNote and move them around autonomously, reorder them, make them useful, right? Add reactions and add checklists and have everything in there. So pages to me is OneNote amped up, right? It's like the superhero of OneNote. Okay. And then workspaces are just that. That's the culmination of saved things within a project or a team environment that you're doing to have, like, say you have a project and you have a marketing component, and you have, a page that has some marketing ideas, and you have an operations page that has all these other components. This is the place to centrally locate all those pages, right? So think of it as almost like OneNote's, folder view on the left-hand side. If you're a OneNote user, it all kind of becomes that area, which is the one place to go to get this. Now, this is not that competition to Teams that most people think of, because this is where you're interacting with it, right? And Teams is a delivery mechanism. So Teams can be a delivery mechanism for components. It's already stated it's going to be the first bit out. And I bet you that you're going to be able to surface the workspaces on a tab too as well. I can't bet that. I mean, that hasn't been said, but I see that happening as the combination of Word, Excel, Pages, or let's not use the new terminology, Word, Excel, graphics, images, tables, all the stuff that would be considered a component that you would land on a OneNote page, and having a OneNote book that's shared but more collaborative and more seamless in a web delivery model as opposed to through an app model. So that's kind of how I distilled it. That's kind of everything I've looked at from this. This seems to be a great path forward, because it centralizes communication, it centralizes idea, and it allows the open flow of concept to be developed upon and/or abandoned or heralded and moved forward, because we have the ability to now consolidate it there. Could you consolidate Word documents and Miro boards and whiteboards and maybe OneNote? Yes, you can, but they are their own individual app with their own individual purpose. People use OneNote more as individual locations for them to have digital paper. This is more of a place for people to have a consolidated work experience. So again, this is 50,000 foot view. These things are going to be released in stages. Components is the first to Teams. So after that little breakdown, that 3-tier breakdown, what are your thoughts? And do you think that how I described it will help our business users with some of the confusion maybe around what this is?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you were talking through, and as I was refreshing my memory on some things from watching the keynote, it's almost like OneNote 2.0 for like group collaboration at its core, because you have, like you said, the different pages where you can collaborate, write different sections, and even incorporate some of like the Microsoft Whiteboard stuff, maybe with drawing and different sections, and also a new component with the live components, or the loop components as they're calling them, where they stay in sync across different apps and where you put them at. I think it's OneNote 2.0 with lots of new added features and things like that. Which you're right, Teams is the delivery path, and you can surface it. I'm sure they're going to have tabs and an app for Loop and Teams, and it seems like there's going to be a standalone app for Loop as well. Based off of what they said, they think they're going to share more on that in the coming months.
I would hope so, and I would hope that it's optimized for tablets.
No doubt it should be. Yep. But with the tree structure, and it's like sections within OneNote and different documents, it's a souped up OneNote to a certain extent. So it is curious. I mean, I think this is in response to with some of the other products out there that maybe Teams was competing with, like Slack and some. So the other ones escape me at the moment, but Slack is the main one. The free form flow of work and not Teams is probably a little bit more structured in that sense, but I think Loop probably answers those needs for those things. And as anything with Microsoft, it's all going to be integrated and work together in a seamless way.
So I submit that there is a little bit of smoke and mirrors, and here's the smoke and mirrors: is that it is free form, but it's also secured and controlled.
Yeah.
So anything that is collaborative, giving people the flexibility to move and do in which they are most productive is key. And when I say smoke and mirrors, I make it sound like it's disingenuous. That's not the case. I should say there's a little bit of magic behind the scenes, right? So everything in the 365/Microsoft world and culture is brokered with identity and access management. So you'll see that these loop items are going to be able to be controlled and marshaled based upon where they're like the components are going to be able to be controlled and marshaled by, do you have access to where these things live, right? That'll give you that. So it is, yes, it's not the Wild West like the competing products that are out there that struggle with, identity and access management from a security perspective. It is enabling people to do everything that you can on those other platforms, but it does have that layer of security that kind of covers that up, right?
It's attempting attempting to marry the best of both worlds, and that's all you can do, really.
Yeah.
Especially from an business and enterprise, standpoint.
Yep.
And that's my Microsoft always gonna have the underlying layer of IAM. That's what they're well known for, and it's what they, it's what they're always known for. Active Directory's been around since 1800, whatever year it's been.
It wasn't 1800. A long while.
I'm curious. When I first saw it, I was like, "What?" And I didn't really understand why. Why? I think more my issue was how it was being marketed and how they were branding it as far as a completely separate app. But I think locking in on it. I mean, I think after letting it simmer for, I guess Ignite's been a week or so removed here, week and a half maybe. I'm curious to see what they do with it. I'm curious to see what the components are. I mean, I think the fluid framework is an awesome thing. I think that have the different components live in different places and data is always up to sync, no matter where you edit it. I think that's super cool and super, it's definitely a nice little added notch in the Microsoft belt. But yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes. I'm curious to see how it develops and how it integrates with the rest of the products in Microsoft. So.
Yeah. So, keeping with the theme of collaboration, but also teams. So there's been a lot of announcements on Viva, and we've heard about Viva for a while now. And, I'm going to attempt to screen share, and I know our listeners are probably going to eye roll because you can't see my screen. So I won't do this for very long. But Viva Insights, are you using that, Dev?
No, I'm not. I mean, I've been wanting to get more into the Viva aspect in general, but I have not been using anything particularly like Viva Insights or anything recently. No.
Yep. So I'm kind of doing Viva Insights right now. So I'm going to pop open a screen share, and I'll kind of talk through what this looks like. So let me get my screen up here. Let's go this way. Let's do this. All right. So we're streaming my screen. So I know there's really nothing that is compromising that I should have on here. So we should be good. So every day at 4:00, I get this little notification because it knows I work remote, and it says virtual commute. You're ready to wrap up your day and mindfully disconnect. So if I say, let's go, it gives me an option here. It's like, hey, looking at to do, it's going to look at, can I add it? Do I need to add a task for, to do? So if it looks at my to do and there's tasks that are, coming up or I want to push out, it gives you the option to do it right here. Or if there's something you're like, what, I need tomorrow morning, I need to get up early because I need to do end of year reviews. So I can punch something in here real quick and say, let's just do that right now. End of year reviews. I can hit add task. It's going to add it to my to-do, right? So now if I hit next, it's going to look through and it's going to say, oh, ITP Tech Talks is at 5:30. So we have a Tech Talks we're recording tonight at 5:30. I need to do this. There's this event. Next. Okay, sure. It's fine. And it says, reflect your emotions to check on your well-being for the day. And am I happy? Am I just good? Am I meh? Am I sad or am I? So, I'm recording right now, and I'm recording, and I'm going to say very good because I'm recording. Next. And it's going to walk me through this virtual commute, right? It helps you just kind of get down and kind of cool down and get out of your own space. I am not going to do this because we're not going to spend 10 minutes with headspace meditating. But, we can, if we felt so inclined to say, you know what? I worked remotely and I answered all my stuff. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go out to my family, and I'm just going to decompress. So you can go through the headspace meditation. So I'm just going to close that out. But then you get brought up this here, right? So, it has all these things in here, right, that you can do that kind of helps you wrap up your day. It's going to look at your focus time. It's going to look at, if you're overdue with sending an email, if you send somebody, I'll get back to you. Or if it reads that you have a question for somebody's waiting on you, you're able to say, handle all this stuff. If I want to send praise to my colleagues, if I think, Michael Devlin's doing a great job working with that customer for Aspirant. I can say, hey, hit send praise. Now, obviously, this is a test tenant. This isn't the Aspirant tenant. So be not afraid. But you can continue through here, and I'm not going to continue through here because there are things on my calendar I don't think the public should see. But you have the ability to stay connected, and it'll look through your email to make sure you're not missing stuff. So you wrap up your day. It's going to make sure that you're productive, you're attentive to your coworkers and your clients and or your business partners. And then you can also hit protect time, which allows you to say, you know what, I've been overworked. I've been doing a lot with customer stuff. I need to really have some focus time to really, put my time entry in or put my time entry in or put my time entry in. So
not so subtle.
Yeah, not so subtle. So, I mean, there is ways to do that, right? And be able to be mindful of yourself too, and kind of decompress, because I know, especially if you're working remote or even hybrid, partially remote, it's hard to take the step away from the desk and then to the family if you don't shed that off of you, it's coming with you, and you want to make sure your interactions with your family are positive, right? I think one of the best things from interactions with my family has been working from home a good majority of for a while now, because I do take not just to interact with them throughout the day. I'm pretty much married to this mic, a phone, a camera, and writing architectures up. But being able to naturally segregate from work to home and have that time to just decompress and have an understanding, because one of the things I used to do every night after I was done with work, or after I drove home from a commute, eat dinner, then I would sit down and I'd open my phone up and I'd start looking at my day tomorrow. I don't do that anymore. I do that here with Viva Insights. I see what my day tomorrow is. I look at my to-do, making sure I don't have any lagging tasks. I'm looking at, how my colleagues are interfacing with me and seeing their insights, because if they're using insights and they're saying, hey, I need to reach out, be proactive, it makes me feel things are covered. And that's important, because the only way you can truly walk away from the desk and out into your family room is to truly leave it behind. Now, obviously, I'm not saying, hey, once I walk out there, I don't think of work. I'm always thinking of technology and work, but it's not that at that stress level where I'm like really spun up over something that happened today that I'm going to have to wait to get back into the office for. I'm trying to wrap it down. That virtual commute, I used to do that on the way home. I listened to a podcast, not our own, listen to a podcast and try to just get out of my own head for 15, 20 minutes, and then for like 5 minutes or so trying to refocus on what I need to do for tomorrow. But I'd always wind up looking at that calendar, see when that first meeting is, knowing if I need to get up a couple hours earlier because I didn't cover what I needed to for the day. It's super useful. And I'm going to stop sharing here, the screen here. We don't need to see that anymore, and bring us back to our regular view. So if you haven't used Viva Insights, I really recommend that you do. It is available inside your teams if your administrator has enabled it for your environment. But there are some other Viva components that are out there, right? What are some of the other Viva components, Dev?
There's Viva Connections, which enables you to excuse me, which enables me to or enables people to stay connected to what's going on in the organization. As far as it goes, like with news and HR stuff, whatever the organization will put out through Viva Connections. And that's tied with Viva Topics as well, as far as the information you get. Viva Insights, you had talked to just now, obviously. And there's one other one, but it escapes me right now. It's
Learning. Viva Learning.
Viva Learning, yes. And that's more with the LMS variety learning module systems, which I think is a really critical one, from that perspective, because a lot of times in the past when I've talked to different clients, they've, especially with bigger organizations that are very slow plotting and they have their own LMS and stuff like that, be able to hook that in to Viva Learning is critical too, instead of having to live outside of that. I think that's really nice as well.
Yeah, culture and communications is I think logically it wires in all the other Viva components and places them as cards on your mobile or on your Teams tab or however they're delivering it. But it also, like you mentioned, like noteworthy news, whatever you wire into it, employee pulse, upcoming PTO, things that you need to have, maybe an ability to maybe do a COVID check, or maybe do just a general well-being check. Like, how are you doing as an employee? You can push a lot of that stuff out. There's integration with Workday, ServiceNow, UKG. There's a bunch more, but they're the ones that are top of mind that you can, put tickets in or see the status of your tickets. That kind of couples with Aspirant's partner MoveWorks, because there's multiple ways in which you can get at things. So you can get at your tickets through those platforms into your Teams tenant, but you can also then push that status into your Viva, which is I think kind of awesome. So it provides communication based upon your style, and also tailor it towards how the culture of your organization is, and what you want to surface out there. You mentioned the LMS system, the skill up, right? So there's also productivity and well-being, right? So that's the insights bit, right? And I'm attempting to call up here the knowledge expertise piece. It's more like a knowledge management system, but it's like AI driven, right? So it's going to look across your data in your org. It's going to look at your chats. It's going to look at what you're doing from interacting with your peers and or external people, and help consolidate some of that stuff. So that's super awesome. In the old days, we used to be able to crawl systems with SharePoint crawlers, and that's more document driven, whereas the topics are more driven around what you target it towards, and allows you to surface cards, right? So you're pulling across your Outlook, your SharePoint, all the other Viva pieces eventually once they're deployed. So yeah, stay tuned to the Viva space. I think it's really worth touching on, and at least looking at, because it really doesn't take much to enable your people, especially with insights, to let them to start getting into this. It might seem kind of like, why would I do this every day? Say how I'm feeling, or, I mean, you can actually see your reflection over time on how you felt, and you can map that to maybe things that are going on. And employee health and well-being is top of mind in Microsoft, and top of mind of organizations, as we say, stay scattered or hybrid, right? You know what I'm thinking, Dev? I think we went a little too deep on Viva for today's show. I think we might need to have a show specially just around some of the new stuff for Teams. What are your thoughts on that? Unless you can fit it in like 3 minutes. What are your thoughts?
No, honestly, Teams is Teams, and it's going to constantly evolve and stuff like that. I think, I think that, there's always going to be little updates here and there for, to tweak the experience. But I think the biggest thing that I came out of me, which was also probably one of my biggest things from the last Ignite, was the shared channels.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. That's huge. For those of you listening, I just actually physically applauded that.
Because I was curious when they first announced it, because this has been in the works for a while now. When they first announced that, how is that going to work from a manager? Yeah, it's beautiful from the front end perspective for an end user, but from a back end management for the more technical people
they figured it out for mobile. They figured it out for. I have no less than like 6 individual Teams accounts on mobile, and I can.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking purely about like the administration of the team itself.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because the whole thing before private channels was the thing is, well, how do we segment that from a permission standpoint in the back end?
Yeah.
And the solution was, we're just going to create a whole new site, which seems like that's the approach they're taking with this as well. Is that it's going to be a whole new site, just like a private channel is, a whole new SharePoint site is like a private channel is, and then you'll be able to permission stuff like that. But from a Teams interface perspective, it'll look like it's all together and things like that. And I'm curious to, because with private channels, the membership for a private channel can only be a subset of the team itself. Or a subset of the membership of the team itself. Obviously, with a shared channel, that's probably not what you want. You're only going to want to share out one channel, not the entire team. So I'm curious how that's going to work as well. From that perspective. I'm sure they got that figured out. I believe it's going into, I forget if it's public or private preview. This I think in Q1 this upcoming year. So I'm curious to see what that's going to look like. Probably looking at end of next year, probably for a general availability rollout at this point. So they've been working on it for at least 2 years. So, I mean, or probably more than that before they announced it last year. So I'm curious to see what it's going to look like and what the management.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine the war room. Yeah. So just for those watching, you can see how to follow Dev on Twitter. You can follow him at DevlinMD13. You can follow me at PRIM83. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you as listeners. And if you're viewing, we definitely appreciate you as viewers, as we're just getting onto the video side with these efforts. You can look in the show notes. Look in the show notes for links to Aspirant, links to how to reach us. You can always find us on LinkedIn. Please comment and reach out to us on LinkedIn and or Twitter. We'll be more than happy to guide you to some answers or some right resources to help you get the answers. We're here to assist. So without further ado, any final closeouts you have, Dev?
No, I think we covered a lot of things, so I think we're good.
Yeah, we absolutely did. Viva topics, Viva insights, Viva. Thank you, Microsoft, for making this stuff available, and thank you, Aspirant, for making this show possible. We'll see you all in the next time. Bye.